Hey guys, Dan Young here with Dan's Millionaire Code. And every week I bring you a super entrepreneur Jedi who's built everything from dirt. People who've been through lots of bad things and lots of good things, but they've made it to this point where they're the strongest they are in their life. Today's guest, we've been friends virtually for quite a while on Instagram and social media. And I've been following his stuff, liking his stuff for years, and it's so cool to actually have you physically come out. And I didn't even know this, but Adam here is from Utah. We'll get into that, which is kind of crazy. And he's living in Los Angeles, on Hollywood, right?
Yep.
And what's funny is I'm from Los Angeles and I moved to Utah, so we just went, but we caught each other.
Yep.
So let me tell you guys about Adam Farfan. Serial entrepreneur, investor, speaker, one of the most charismatic dudes I know. He owns and operates 3 privately held companies, built millions and millions of dollars in revenue for clients and agents in the financial services industry, very specialized, with over 2 decades of experience. So he's not a one-hit wonder. He's been directly consulting for sales divisions of Inc. 5000 and Fortune 500 companies. He has crazy expertise in the global life insurance market. Annuities and investment knowledge has made him one of the most highly sought-after professionals and thought leaders. His greatest passion is building leaders and successful entrepreneurs. We're like that together, huh?
Yep,
Like crazy.
100%.
And to date, he has mentored dozens of startup founders, created over $500 million in value. So pretty serious. Finally, when not enjoying his life globe-trotting, he participates in large organic produce markets in the world.
Yep.
So welcome.
Thanks, bro.
Dude, I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks so much for inviting me, bro. I just got a tour of your spot here.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely blown away by all the epic stuff that you got going here.
Very nerdy, huh?
Very epic. So.
But thank you for visiting. So tell us where you came from, man. Like, you're like a mystery man. Like, so you see this, I see you in the velvet robe, and you got this party with like every famous person in Hollywood, and popping bottles pre-COVID, and all these crazy events, man. And so I was like, this guy, what does this guy do? And it's been for years.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it's always been, success gets defined at different tiers depending on where you're at in your life. What success is to me now is very different than it was 10 years ago. And 10 years ago was very different than what it was 10 years prior to that. So, I grew up, like many people here, I grew up as a just regular kid in Utah going to school, and school wasn't for me, right? I really felt like there was something wrong with me because I could not concentrate. I really could not do anything with tests. I could not do, I didn't do well with teachers, and even I grew up really not having a lot of friends.
Did you get your name written on the board too, with check marks and stuff?
Yep, I did a lot of that, and
Adam, Dan, check.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I just didn't really feel like regular education was for me, and to be honest with you, I felt dumb. But something inside me wanted to make a lot of money. I felt like I really felt like I wanted. Honestly, if you look back at the time and I look at Adam, 15-year-old little Adam. I just wanted to be somebody. I didn't know what that was going to look like. I didn't know I was going to have the lifestyle that I do today. I didn't know any of that stuff. I just wanted to go ahead and be somebody. And, it was interesting enough because of the fact that, I started really meeting people. Meaning the fact that I started doing a lot of events. I started doing parties at my house, and even when I lived here, I had a little apartment in West Jordan, and I would invite people to come out to that, and then people started coming out, and I started meeting a lot of different people. Then I started filtering to see who I would have to invite next time, and when I moved to LA, that was the same thing that happened. Is that I didn't know anybody. I lived at a hotel in Hollywood for my first few months because I had no idea how expensive it was out there to go ahead and live when I first moved out there. I probably should have done my due diligence, but I didn't. And what I started doing is I started connecting with people, going to various events, offering value, and getting to know people. And then what I realized is that we all have one thing in common. No matter who you are, what race you're from, no matter what color your skin is, we all like to have fun.
Oh, yes.
And, that's one thing that I really, I know that brings people together is having fun. And that's something that charities have done now. That's something that many companies do. That's, that's one thing. And I think that that's the one thing that I wanted to do even in my personal dating life or in my business life, is that people would just come together towards a common goal of business and their goals, but at the same time just wanted to have fun, wanted to go ahead and just do things in their lives that was going to go ahead and be that was going to be an epic time, right? And that's what I provided for people, and that's the reason how I met so many incredible people throughout my life. And I've met celebrities, entrepreneurs. I've had billionaires, millionaires over at my house, best-selling authors, speakers, and all kinds of different people that have actually come. And I miss doing that I did this prior to COVID. I've just been traveling now, the last few
people
months.
see your social media, and they see this guy who's got all these really cool human beings in giant mansions, fun cars, all kinds of crazy stuff. But I don't think they see the back end of the hard work and the actual. I didn't even know what you actually did for a living. I mean, is this guy just did he inherit like $1 trillion now, and is he just partying all day? That.
Yeah,
it's
many
funny.
people think that. Yeah.
Some people on the internet. I'd ask them, "Hey, what does that guy do?" They're like, "Oh, he just inherited like $1 billion and he parties all day."
Yeah.
So what is the truth of what you grind through in the pain? I know it's not a lot on your social media, a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But what do you actually do to have built your empire and your companies and all those things?
Well, it all starts every single sweater, you can go ahead and pull it by the thread. And to me, the little thread was my first mentor. It wasn't really even a mentor, to be honest with you. I remember there was actually, and I talk about this quite often. There was a guy that, used to go to my church years and years ago, and he had a very nice life, to what I would consider a nice life back then. He had a nice car and a nice, family. And what I liked about this guy is that everybody liked this guy. Mm-hmm. And one day he just came to my parents' house and started talking to my parents about, not anything about church or anything like that. He was talking to my parents about financial services. And to be honest with you, I was 16 years old. I wasn't a genius. I don't have a high, crazy IQ, right? But I remember hearing two things that struck me. And he says, highest paid profession in the world, which was financial services, and all you need to do is get a simple license. Automatically to me, I'm like, oh my gosh. The first thing that I thought about is that means I never have to go to school. I didn't like school. I didn't like teachers. I wasn't good in testing, right? So I went off, and this is what happened, and that's kind of where I started grinding. And what I knew is that if I wanted to do something, as this guy would tell me, I would have to get good. I remember this guy would even go out there and play poker a little bit. And I said, one day, can you teach me? He's pretty good at it. And he says, would you be willing to go ahead and at least play 1,000 poker games without putting one dime into the game? And I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, the reason why I'm good at things is because I study and I become the best at it before I take the risk to go ahead and do it.
Oh.
And that's one of the things that I feel like many people don't do today, is just really study it and get involved with it, and are able to go ahead and really, learn and do what it takes to go ahead and do that. Because it's not just a combination of luck, and it's not just a combination of being in the right place at the right time, all those different things. But at the same time, it is part of the oldest trick in the book, which is hard work, right? And for me, that's how it gets started. And, I met my first millionaire mentor then when I was a teenager. That's what happened when I first met this guy. I was a multimillionaire. What was the difference? Is that it stretched my vision. I learned that I needed disciplines in my life. I learned that it wasn't just about money to be able to go ahead and do that, but have a fulfilled life, and whatever that meant to you, right? Mm-hmm. Because reality of it is, if I talk to somebody who's 20 years old, 30 years old, 40, 60 years old, they have a different idea of what epicness is. And to me, right, what an epic life is has changed a lot, even drastically, even from what it was 20 years ago, right? Money is not a moving factor in my life as much as it used to be, where I used to be excited about it. Now it's like meeting good people, connecting with people that are similar to me, that are doing great things for the world. And, and I think that's one of the things that I've really surrounded myself with, is people that want to go out there and make a difference. But going back, talking about what was my beginning of it, is that, back then I didn't have social media. I didn't have, things that I could go ahead and post on. I didn't even have a MySpace account, right? I didn't know any better. I think that in the world of today, what happens, and if you're, maybe an entrepreneur figuring out what to do, is that there's too many shiny things out there, right? It's like, oh, that real estate gig's so good. Oh, this Forex and this and this. And now, this is one of the things you have to understand, is that I personally believe you could make money just about in anything you put yourself into.
Mm-hmm.
You submerge yourself into, right? You did it with computers, you did it with gaming, you did it with the way you did it, right? And reality of it is the fact that, if somebody were to ask me, would some things pay better than others? Yes. But at the end of the day, you have to sell yourself out to something and stick with it long enough to go ahead and see results. And that's what happened to me, is that for the first few years, I talk about this all the time, I didn't really, as a teenager, 18, 19, 20 years old, I wasn't going out to the clubs. People ask me so much right now.
Really?
They ask me all the time. They're like, how come you go out so much? I'm like, I didn't do this when I was a young guy.
Pent up demand.
Yeah. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you how crazy it is. I didn't even own my first pair of jeans until I was like 24 years old.
Whoa.
All I was wearing was just kind of like old men's clothes, suits and ties. My first, from the time I was 16 till I was like 20 something.
Whoa.
So for me, because I had an idea of what I wanted my life to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew, that's the number one thing. Probably you get messages also on social media where people ask me, what is your number one motivation? Or people tell me all the time, Adam, how do I get motivated? What book should I read? And I look back on myself and I'm like, what motivates me is, what motivated me is look around you. I would suggest you do a couple of things, to motivate yourself. I tell people, the one thing you want to do is before you get into your car, ask yourself, is this what I want to drive? Is this what I should be driving?
Yes.
Right? Get into your car, right? Look at, when you pull up to your house, ask yourself before you go in, just take a small moment and just step outside, and just before you go in and ask yourself, is this where I should be living? Right? Is this where I should be? Is this where I'm meant to live? Right? And then when you go inside your house, go into the first bathroom mirror and look at yourself and ask yourself, is this the person I wanted to become? And I'll tell you this, throughout different times of your life, that's going to go ahead and change drastically.
That's gold.
But that's the number one factor in your life, is the fact that if you don't have what you want, right, go out there and find that, right? Go out there and do that. And to me, I think that's one of the big things that has driven me in my life today, where I'm not driven by books or money. I'm driven by people. And what are some of the things that people are doing and how can it contribute to what they're doing and all those different things. And I love that. I love my life.
I want to ask you a question before I lose my thought pattern on this one. So you met that first mentor, came to your house. Guy was living a good life, good family guy, had some of the things you wanted, kind of inspired you, right? So what was the catalyst? Was it a mentor or something that really laid out the big one, where you really like critical mass,
Mm-hmm.
nuclear fusion, Did someone teach you that, or was that self-study before?
I think it was a combination of people, but at the same time, like, you can be in part of a great environment. But if it's not in you and you're not incentivized internally to create an internal explosion, like be inspired to do it, you're not going to do it. How many friends do we have that, their parents are very, very wealthy and their kids are not like that at all? It's not environment. It's their parents have some of the best connections in the world, right? Their parents are very wealthy. They have access to everything. But a lot of times, they have to find something that self-inspires them to go ahead and do something great with their lives.
Wow.
And I think that was the thing for me, is that, yes, I started seeing, a lifestyle, that I wanted, right? My first Millionaire mentor, I remember going to his house the first time, and he had somebody that would come every other day to clean his fish tank.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, wow, like, it's not even something I ever thought about, right? Like,
Fish tank dude.
as somebody like, right, like coming from a very, middle class type of family, that stuff is not stuff that I would see, right? So for me, instead of playing it cool, like many people do when they see something, I was like, wow, this is insane, right? Like, for example, I was with my mentor a couple of months ago, one of my mentors, one who's a very good friend of mine, and I went to his villa in Hawaii. He had rented this villa, and he had made it an effort to go ahead and go there, and he has dolphins in his backyard. Right, like
Did you ride one?
where you could literally go down the stairs,
Whoa.
And you could literally go in there and touch the dolphins. If they're late at night, you could meditate. You could, you know what I mean? And I was like, so for me, instead of playing nonchalant and be like, oh, that's cool. He's one of my friends that has that. Or like before where I was like, oh, that's my friend. That's Ferrari, right? Like, I was like, wow, how do I do that? Because what happens is that you become more of an spectator. And what happens is that internally, you almost don't believe those things could ever happen to you. And you look at it and you admire it. And I'll tell you this, I never wanted to be, the guy that had the friend that had the Ferrari.
Yes,
right?
So.
Oh, dude, you got to be my friend. He's got this epic house, right? I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to be the friend that had that, or the friend that had the connections or something like that. Does that make sense? I wanted to be the source. And I would tell you the number one thing is just be paradigm, looking at everything. The way you look at yourself, it's, how you look at the world. Perception is everything, man. Perception is absolutely.
I'm notating all your fire wisdom here.
Everything in your life. You can look at everything and just be like, I'm a a couple days ago we had this. We could see Pluto outside. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, was that Saturn, Pluto? Everything?
Yeah, Saturn, Pluto, whatever, And I remember I saw this while I was in the car. I think it was here. Was I here? And I remember looking at it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I literally feel like a baby little alien, like a little creature, just on Earth trying to be somebody, you know what I mean? When the universe is so big.
Oh.
Right? We're so tiny. We get so caught up in all these different things. And the reality of it is the fact I was like, oh my gosh, life is so incredible. There's so much I don't know. Like, nobody can come and tell me, I know what happens when you die, right?
Yeah.
Like, for me, I'm like, yeah, great, but I don't know. I can't, I can understand, I can respect it, right? But I feel like there's so much that I don't know. And to me, that's so exciting. Mm-hmm. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, isn't it going to be insane when you got guys that are going out there that will live in a generation where we're going to be able to go and travel to Mars, like domestically, right? We're going to be able to go ahead and do this. We're able to go ahead and have access to so many different things, right? We're living in this uncertain times, right? That are like, that are going to be, echoing for the, in the voice of eternity, right?
Yes.
It's so insane to live here right now and for me to be 36 at this time. And where I'm like, I'm not too young enough to go ahead and kind of like dismiss it, but I'm not too old to be like, oh man, I can't make a difference, right? Now, with that being said, you can be, dude, 70, 80. Some of my mentors are incredible, more even energy than I do at 74, right? But the reality of it is the fact that that's one of the things that I think about, and it excites me, dude. It excites me more than ever. And I think that when you start looking at the big picture, and you start really looking at it from an energetic perspective and the fact that, we're all really in one form, connected and I don't believe that things don't happen for a reason, right? Like, for example, the other day, I missed something that I needed to go ahead and get to, and I was like, there's a reason why this happens. Right now, I'm one of those guys that will things to happen, right?
Yeah.
If I want to meet somebody, I will orchestrate. Or if I want to do something, I will will things. I will engineer or reverse engineer.
We call that the reality distortion field.
Yep.
Right?
Nice. I love that.
That's
Yeah.
what we use.
100%. Steve Jobs. And that's one thing, right? For me, but most of the time now, I'm like, okay, if something doesn't pan out the way you want to, or something doesn't happen the way, or like certain friends, right? Like, there's people out there that, kind of like what you said, like, they're like, oh, Adam, this, and I don't know how you made this money, like, right? Yeah. That's happens at a certain time, at a certain place, how I was meant to happen. Oh, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, all you can do is be yourself, be your best, not just be yourself, right? I hear this all the time where people are like, listen to yourself, has yourself gotten you where you want to get to? I don't know, right? But if you haven't gotten to where you want to get to, you want to listen to your higher self, right? What would the person that you want to emulate to be like? What would that person do? How would that person feel like? And what kind of decisions would they make, right? I've always had I learned this from a mentor of mine years and years ago. You just have a mastermind alliance. Study people that you want to be like, and ask yourself, what would they do in this case? You'll find yourself finding easier answers to that, believe it or not, right? If I was to go ahead and be, do something in the computer world or something in the gaming world, right? I always ask myself, what would my buddy Dan Young do at this particular point? And as I got to know you a little bit more, as I learn about you, or as I read about you, suddenly the answers will come, right? Like, for example, I was watching one of your videos the other day that I mentioned to you about taking risk about marketing, going against what anybody else is not doing by doing the kind of commercials you've done, right?
Yeah, crazy stuff.
Now, if you were asking yourself, and let's just say that you don't know Dan, right, and you watch some of his videos, and you come a point across your life where you're going to do something kind of wild and crazy that is maybe not you, right? You can ask yourself, what would Dan do at this point? Would he do this or would he wouldn't? And what you'll find is that you'll find a lot more successful answers by asking yourself, what would these people do also? Because now Dan even can be part of your mastermind alliance.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yes.
So the Jedi of all.
Hey, I have a question for you too. I've been writing down a lot of this stuff, but you are and I am the virtual mentor here, right? So hopefully a lot of the guys and girls out there are watching this, because they're not paying for this. This is free. So
What?
Yeah, it's free. Yeah. So, but we ask though that you share it with friends and loved ones and then execute, right?
You have to be a master of execution.
You gotta execute. What is some homework that you would like to assign for the viewers out there? Maybe just a couple of things that you want them to do as their Master Jedi teacher right after they're listening to this.
I would tell you the number one thing you want to go ahead and do is find 3 people that you are in the industries that you want to go ahead and be at, and study at least 10 hours of their stuff. There is a high chance, there's a lot of people out there that are not, they're not like, they're speakers or all this stuff. But there's 3 people out there that you probably want to be like, or that are in the industry that you are. I would encourage you to go ahead and do at least 10 hours of study time of each one of them.
Yeah.
What you'll find is that you'll start naturally adapting. It's kind of like, I want you to think about it kind of like a virtual lineage, right? Where it'll start conveying into you, it'll start transgressing in you, and you'll start really picking up that, those things. Like, depending on who I'm talking to, right, that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Like, today I'm coming, right? I decided to wear like kind of like a fun t-shirt or whatever, because I know I was going to hang out with you, right? Because of the fact that what you want to do is you want to go ahead and try to emulate and try to go ahead and be like the people you're surrounding yourself with. And you always want to go ahead and, kind of like the way people say marry up, you want to buddy up, right? You want to make sure your buddies are at a different level than you are, and always finding, great people to connect with.
This is beautiful knowledge. I want to summarize some of your wisdom,
Okay.
because you just taught me like 15 things. Guys, 1, have fun, okay? Very important to have fun. That's how you can build your networks,
Yep.
by having fun with other people. One thing that inspired Adam was his first mentor, and he found someone he wanted to be like, so he spent a lot of time in proximity to this person. And the thing that he learned from that mentor is study before taking the risk, right? So
Yep.
it's less risky because you've studied first, right? So your chances of success are good. Before you get in your car or your house, is this what I want?
Yep.
Right? Ask yourself, man, this house I want? Is the house I want? And then look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I living the life I want? Right?
Yep. Or am I even laying down to the next person I want to be with? Honestly, that's a big thing. Sometimes where you're like, sometimes you're with a person in your life that you shouldn't be with, and you're trying to figure out like, you know what I mean? Ask yourself that question too. And
I think I've seen that in your Instagram. Like, you have this huge party, and then there's someone who's a woman who's beautiful, intelligent, has a lot of energy and integrity, and you sit by her and you get a selfie.
yeah.
Is her neck? I'm messing with you.
Yep.
Be your best, not just yourself.
Yep.
Right? Study people and what they do. You need internal, like, explosive inspiration.
Yep.
You can't just be one of these guys that's like, I just kind of go about the day, that
Yep.
type of thing. Okay. And then homework. Find 3 people in the industry that you're interested in and ask yourself, how do I do that, right? Study each person 10 hours. And that's really the secret to get started.
Yep.
Dude,
100%.
it's crazy. Any last pieces of wisdom that you have to share with the viewers out there that's maybe floating in your subconscious?
I'm gonna tell you this, and this is more of a true factor of what's going on right now with the whole climate, especially if you want to go ahead and get a business and stuff like that, get a business going, make more money. I think that things are gonna go ahead and change a lot drastically over the next few years. You look at right now, you can make money in just about anything that you want to. It's almost like, it's incredible. But the reality of it is the fact that I don't know that it'll stay this good forever. What I would encourage you to go ahead and do is remember that procrastination is your worst enemy. Procrastination is the worst nation on earth. And what you want to go ahead and do is you want to go ahead and get started now, because the number one thing of any common people that have ever asked themselves, what's one thing that you do different? Every successful person says, you know one thing? They said, I wish I would have done it sooner. So therefore, what I would encourage you to go ahead and do today is start getting it going now. And start moving towards your progress, right? If you just become 1% better every day, in 100 days you'll be 100% better. And with that being said, I'm grateful to be here.
Dude. Now, important. Now everyone's like, where can I find Adam, man, to see all his shenanigans and business deals? Where can people find you? What's the best place?
Just go to Adam Farfan on Instagram, and easy to find. If you want to go to my website, check some stuff out, learn about me. I also, for the first time ever, I created a course on how to go ahead and become a wealth executive coach, where you can go ahead and do it from anywhere and make a pretty good income. I got people making 6-7 figures just from anywhere in the world they want to travel with.
Whoa.
And if that's something that you're interested in, learn more about it or get a hold of me, and we'll go ahead and make sure that you buckle up and you're connected, and we can take you off to a different orbit.
Man, thank you for the wisdom here. I'm going to type this into my computer of notes. Guys, watch this again and make sure you write down all the things that Adam has taught you today. And the podcast, this is not costing you $10,000. It probably should cost $100,000. But I ask you to do two things. One, execute. Even if you just do one or two things from what Adam taught you today, you're going to level up a lot faster than if you don't. So make sure you execute. And two, how do we fund this podcast? Well, it's not funded. I fund it, right? And the guys that come on do it for free. Share it with friends and loved ones who are in a time of need right now, whether they own a business or thinking about starting one, and they just need some direction from virtual mentors. And what's crazy is, like, to pay a man like Adam to come in and tell you these things of how to start and get going with your business, I mean, it would be astronomically expensive. I know for like some of these companies, the Fortune 500 companies that I consult with, I charge them $100,000 to show up for like an hour and a half and then eat some sushi with them. So guys, you get this for free. But we're doing this because, for me, it's really one of the forms of how we're going to save the planet. I think, the government or whatever they're doing, giving people stuff, that's great to help people that are suffering. But really, the future is going to be based off of entrepreneurs like you guys.
Exactly.
You guys are going to create the companies. You're going to create the next Apple, Teslas, all those American invented products.
Yep.
Because the number one value in the United States of America is intellectual property.
Yep.
And selling.
Yep.
Because Americans can invent cool stuff and they can sell it.
Yep.
That is the goal. So guys, go out, take some action. Thank you guys for being on Dan's Millionaire Code, watching this. Share it with your friends and loved ones. Adam, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, bro.
Catch you guys next week.
Cheers.